Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Guitar Underground. I'm your host, Neil Santos. And today we're going to talk about finding your signature style on the guitar. If you've ever felt stuck or kind of generic in your playing, or maybe you sound like somebody else, then this episode is for you. We're going to look at 5 reasons that maybe you feel stuck. And then we're going to look at 5 tips on maybe how to get unstuck. It's as simple as that. All right? There's nothing worse than playing guitar forever and still feeling like you don't have your own voice, you know? Where in life, it's all about being yourself, showing up as your authentic self, right? And that may be easier when speaking with people or writing, but maybe it doesn't come across as easily on the instrument. So let's take a look at that, okay? It's almost like, let's think of it like handwriting, okay? Like everybody learns the same alphabet, and they can create the same words, but everybody's handwriting looks different. It's just naturally that way, just the way your hand moves, the way your mind thinks. You can tell your mother's writing from your dad's writing, from your best friend's writing, and from your own writing. And that's how we want to make it on the guitar. We want you to have your own signature sound. People hear it and then they say, oh, that's you. You know, that's so you, right? So let's get into it, right? Let's talk about 5 reasons maybe you're not feeling as your playing is as personalized as it sounds. You don't have your own sound. Now, one reason may be that you're using too many options, right? So reason 1 is style emerges from limits, not options. Too many choices creates hesitation, and you can't just flow, you know? So maybe like an intermediate player knows 5 or 6 scales, right? They know the pentatonic scale. They know like the major scale. They know the melodic minor, the harmonic minor, the whole tone scale. I almost went into a dream sequence there for a sec. Hold on. All right, we're back. But if you try to jam those into every solo, everything's going to sound scattered, like you won't be able to explore each one of them and create your own like phrases or your own ideas inside those. Unless that's your sound, is you want to sound scattered and kind of disjointed, then go for it. That's a vibe. But most people want to play stuff that sounds, like something someone would play, but with their own spin on it, If you want to make music that maybe people won't listen to, and I mean that's kind of a harsh criticism if you're making crazy tunes with all sorts of weird harmony and stuff, that's a very niche thing, But I suggest reducing the amount of options you have, right? Scale choices, note choices, and just making the most of them, Stay in one scale maybe. Just explore dynamics and bends and in the space between your notes, and your phrases. And that's going to add a lot to kind of coming up with your own sound. When you hear David Gilmour, and he's not playing fast, and he's not playing a bunch of different scales. He's just playing what he feels fits that song right then. And maybe he likes when things are singable, right? And I've heard players say that. I like when my things are singable. Neil Schon, his solos and guitar breaks are always very singable. He plays a bit faster than David, but it's him. So that's the idea. Try to limit yourself. Limitations are good. That's where creativity comes from. All right. So reason 2, maybe you don't feel like you sound like yourself. Maybe you view your default licks. Maybe like I'm always playing the same thing. You view those as weaknesses, but instead I think you should view them as clues, right? Like Like if you always bend the fourth note of the minor pentatonic, right? You're in A and you always go, and you go, oh, I hate that. I always do that. Or you're always landing on the root. Like that could be good sometimes, but then you feel like you do it too much. Or you play only short, punchy phrases. Like all your phrases are like this. Or whatever, but maybe that doesn't work on a ballad, but instead of viewing these as weaknesses, view them as clues, right? This is a clue to where your mind wants to take your style, Try to just reframe it like that. It's, once you're aware of these things, you can embrace them and then build on them, right? Those are just like things that are, or licks and phrases that are in your, hold on, phrases that are in your bag of tricks that you can always pull from. But then you say, maybe that's what makes me sound like me. So instead of fighting them, embrace them. All right. You know what you play, and just try to see if that shift in mindset will help you move towards a goal of like, hey, maybe this is my sound, part of it anyway. All right. Reason 3 is that phrasing is greater than vocabulary, right? Maybe you're too focused on vocabulary, adding words and adding sentences and adding all these things to your well of things to pull from, to make creative choices from, right? And there's just too many things, like maybe you're like, oh, I learned these 20 new licks, but then you try to jam them in. It's kind of like point 1, but instead it's more like what you do with the info. Instead of doing like those 20 licks and jamming them into every solo, just take the idea of the lick or take the notes of the lick and turn that into something personal. Manipulate it, like focus on turning those licks into your own thing. I talked about Steve Vai before, taking like cliched blues licks and then making them his own, like something like that. And he'd be like, like by adding slides and bends and techniques and maybe like, just to add his own spin on it, so take those 20 licks and see what you can do with them. Like, how do you hear them? How can you go way out, bring it way out and be like, oh, I'll see if I can tap this lick, or if I can whammy bar the hell out of it. That's another way to kind of get more of your own sound into things. The phrasing of it, the dynamics of it. All right. That's reason 3, point 3. Here's point/reason number 4. Emotional comfort zones shape your sound, right? So maybe you like playing with aggression, right? Maybe you like playing with space. Maybe you like a sweetness to your note choices, right? That's your personality leaking into the music, and don't fight it. If you, think of different players, maybe piano players, right? I don't know if you're familiar with them as much as you are with guitar players, but I think of Thelonious Monk, who had a very kind of sloppy, swinging sort of sound, but it sounded so good, like he'd almost be playing behind the note, and like it sounded very, spontaneous and stuff, as opposed to maybe Bruce Hornsby, who has a flowing sort of open sound with the note choices, which is amazing, or Herbie Hancock or Stevie Wonder, who have more of a funky thing. Like they lean into their particular emotional comfort zone, right? And explore that. So if you tend to play more aggressive and you like the faster stuff, or if you play more sweet or slow, you got to see that's not a limitation. That's a direction you can go in, right? Like they say in the product engineering business or whatever, that's not a bug, it's a feature, right? That's part of what makes you you. So, when you listen to yourself play, try to identify like, oh, that's kind of my thing. Like I kind of like that fast stuff. I kind of like that. Or I like those sweet, like the sweet interval. Maybe that's what I should do. I lean into that. Or maybe it's a combination of both of these things because we're very complex individuals, aren't we, as guitar players? We have aggression and sweetness and shyness and, bombastic personalities all at once. It depends on the day and the time of day. So confidence grows when you stop trying to be someone else. If you're trying to play guitar like Thelonious Monk, but just not your thing, it's never going to work out, but maybe you'll pick up a few things. Well, this is all very non-scientific. It's just kind of like guidelines or suggestions. Cool. Number 5. Clarity creates identity. And this is where this is more advanced sort of idea where, like, if you can clearly see the fretboard and you stop guessing, right, you can start expressing. If you stop guessing, you can start expressing. And this is what I found when I started playing, with the method I use, like following the chord changes using the pentatonics. I was able to like be free. I often say it's like the guitar neck, instead of being a maze, turned into a playground at that point because I knew whatever I did over this chord with this shape, I could do whatever I wanted. I could just be nuts, jump strings or like play fast or like land on any note and it's going to sound good over that chord. And then when the chord switches, I could switch the new scale and everything in that scale is going to sound good. So, but it took a while to be able to see those changes as the chords were going by all around the neck. It took a while in just one spot. And then it took a while to expand that knowledge all around the neck and be able to just play. I watched an interview with Rick Beato did with Richie Kotzen yesterday, who's like one of my hands down favorite guitar players, singers, composers. And he was talking about it too, almost where he said he's at the point, and I'm not at this point, but he's at the point where he doesn't even have to think about what he's doing. Like he's not thinking, oh, I'm going to go diminished scale. I'm going to go to this minor scale. Now I'm going to play this scale. He just hears the sounds and his hands know where to go. And that way he can he's completely free. He doesn't have to think about, the limitations, where's safe, where isn't safe. So that's this idea. And I've only experienced it at a level less free than that. I still have to think, okay, I have to think about, D is coming up. I can play this note. Okay, G's coming. Now C is coming. And then D again. But when I know what chord I'm in, I know what I can do in that chord all over the neck. And then I know the next chord and I go, oh, all right. And I can kind of plan ahead. Like they'd say Larry Bird looked 2 or 3 plays ahead. Try to look a chord ahead or 2 chords ahead. And you go, okay, I'm in D, but I know G's coming. And I know where I need to be for G, so I can kind of jam around here and then resolve into that. And you can start planning ahead or just it's not even planning ahead after a while. It's kind of like Richie was saying, you hear that next sound and you know where to go because you know it's in that shape. You know what I mean? So that's a more complex, higher level. And that's what I tried to help people get to. That's what I focus on when I teach my students. I'm like, this is what I want to show you, how to be able to turn it from a maze into a playground. So those are 5 points or reasons why maybe you don't sound as much like yourself as you would care to. So, speaking of which, it's the time for the quick commercial break in the middle of the episode before we get into 5 tips on how to, increase your own sound in your playing. So let me just read this for you. I created this thing and I really think it's awesome and I want to tell you about it, right? I think it can help you. So here's the here's the commercial read. I'll put my commercial voice on. Are you a box player, a scale drifter, a phrase shifter, or a fretboard explorer? Most of us are stuck in one of these categories without even realizing it. Head over to the Pentatonic Way and take the Pentatonic Personality Quiz. It takes 60 seconds and gives you instant personalized advice for your specific level. Plus, I'll send you a free 5-day course designed to get you moving in the right direction. So stop guessing and start growing at pentatonicway.com/personality. All right, commercial done. But seriously, though, I made that thing and you can go there, answer a few questions, and you get, here's what you tend to do. Here's where you need to go next. And then there's 5 awesome lessons after it, all custom made to where you're at. So you can check it out. All you need is an email where I can send those courses. And I'd be happy if you find it helpful. All right. So let's get back into it. Here are the 5 tips or exercises you can do that are actionable and doable this week to help you sound more like you. First, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. That's good. All right. Maybe I should be sponsored by a coffee company. All right. No one laughs at my jokes here because I'm by myself, so I can go like. Sorry. Okay. So number 1 exercise that you can do is the 1-box solo challenge, right? Improvise for 5 minutes and only 1 pentatonic shape. You get extra points if it's a shape you don't know that well. So you don't leave the box. You focus on the rhythm and the space. And most importantly, you record it, right? You're going to start to hear what you like. Recording is such a big part of defining your own voice and finding it. Because in the moment when you play, maybe you can't really judge what you're doing. You go, oh, that sounded good, that sounded bad. But then you listen back and then you can really get a good, clear vision of what happened. Because you go, oh, that sounded better than I thought it did, or that sounded not as good as I thought it did. And I like when I do this, or you can identify those things. I always bend the 4th, it seems like. What if I try bending the 7th? Or what if I try sliding into the 9th and go into the root or something? Like you can, that's what I'm looking for. Critique what you're doing better. So yeah, that's a good way to do it. Let me see. I have a little backing track here, a little Satriani sort of A minor thing. And this is what I mean. So we're just going to stay in A minor. Hard to stay in one shape. I want to move on. That's the idea. Anyway, you get the idea. I wanted to move all around the neck. I wanted to keep going up and up. So, like, yeah, that's a challenge. Try to stay right in that one box, see what you can get out of it and record, you know? Um, Number 2, a good tip, phrase repetition exercise. I was kind of doing it there. And this is huge. This makes your solo sound good to non-guitarists as well as guitarists, right? Like guitarists can listen to a solo and they're going, yeah, that's cool, man. I like it. They could be jamming all over, like Guthrie Govan or whatever, like Matteo Mancuso. These guys, they just fit so much in. So many new phrases, like everything's a new phrase. But then, I bring my wife there or just a random civvy, like a civilian, right? And then you listen to it and they don't like it as much. They like when you repeat stuff. And I kind of jumped on something there, like when I went to that something like that. And I was like, I bet this part repeats in the backing track. I'm going to jump on that again. And it automatically gave it like, oh, here's some structure, like here's something I've heard before is what the listener is saying. And I wonder what they're going to do different this time. Maybe they'll do the same thing. And then you mix it up a little at the end. They go, oh, that was surprising, But without that, everything's surprising. And it's always new. And it's like they get oversaturated. So repeating phrases, I often find myself as part of my own sound, when I think of my own sound, is if I play something happenstance, like, improvising that sounds kind of like simple or a children's nursery rhyme or something, immediately that sticks out to me and I try to repeat it again. Because I don't know, I like those like or whatever. And mixing that in with more complex phrases and stuff I think I like that dynamic. And I feel like that comes out a lot in my playing. And I also like those sweet intervals, these big leaps and stuff that sound like lyrical. So if I do that, then lately I'm always trying to get better at this. I'll try to repeat it or develop it, that idea into something, So, yeah, see if you can notice that in your playing. When you record it as well, be like, oh, I should have repeated that. That sounded cool, and maybe I could have got a little bit more out of that. Not always having to create new stuff and new stuff and new stuff, See where that takes you. Yeah, emotional filter practice. So this goes to, goes back to that one where it's like you like to play aggressive or you like to play sweet or you like to play slow. So maybe that's what you do. Maybe let me pull the jam track over here and I have a list: aggressive, calm, playful, and melancholy. All right, so I haven't tried this yet. Let me try to apply these to this backing track. I'm going to start with aggressive. All right. I'll try calm now. I need it. Cool. How about playful? All right, melancholy? I don't know how that's supposed to sound, but... I don't know. That's the idea, though, right? You kind of challenge yourself to come up with what is my interpretation of aggressive or calm or playful or melancholy. And it's going to be different than yours. Like, what can you do with your fingers on the neck that emote that sort of emotion, right? I had no idea what I was going to do there. I knew aggressive would be more like, to me, that's more like harsh picking, loud, fast bends that are kind of screeching. A lot of pick harmonics. Calm was more like mellow, more like that track probably deserves. But that playful seemed more like skipping to me. That's what came to my mind, like simple notes, a skipping sort of rhythm, simple phrases. And then melancholy was really kind of slow and seemed to descend and do these long sort of bends. I think an Eeyore, right, from Winnie the Pooh or something. I don't know. So that's an idea. And I'd like to see, if that works for you, let me know in the comments. And if you record yourself, share it in the comments. I'd like to see it. Anyway. Okay, number 4 tip. I don't want to get this too long. Number 4 is limit your notes to just a couple strings, right? Maybe two strings, 2 strings you don't really know very well, 4 strings, I don't know. And that might, you might come out of that with different, phrasing ideas. See how it goes. Instead of going like from top to bottom on a scale, now you're traveling horizontally across the neck, right? So maybe that's going to pull out some new ideas for you. And then analyze your own tendencies, like when you record yourself. This is the 5th one. I want to keep this under a half hour, so I'm just kind of rushing through the last ones here, and I expect you to do them on your own. It's homework, and it's very important, and you will be judged if you don't do it. I'll know. Number 5 is analyze your own tendencies. And this is the best when you record yourself, right? So ask questions like, where do I land the most? Do I use space? Did I rush? Did it feel like I was anxious? What felt natural? What did I like? What should I repeat? What opportunities did I have there to repeat and create a motif? All of that stuff, that awareness builds your style faster because you're recording, you're internalizing it, and maybe in the moment next time, you'll be more intentional with what you play. So, all right. So let me close it up here. I wrote your signature style isn't something you download or learn. It's something you uncover and develop, right? It's, you don't need more clarity. Wait, no. You do need more clarity. You don't need to escape the box. I mean, it helps with more options. I mean, especially doing that two note thing, but you don't have to add more boxes and more scales and this and that. Just work with what you got, Some of the best writing uses, a very small vocabulary. Like Mark Twain said, the writing of the great authors, the classics, is wine. My writing's water. Everybody drinks water, right? So find your thing. Maybe you want to play wine or play water or a little mix of both. I don't know if I'm stretching that analogy too thin. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. I hope you find your own voice. That's all I want for you. And if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And I'll catch you in the next episode, all right? All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.